everyone, my name's Lyn. I'm an acrylic artist from North Queensland, Australia. It's very tropical here and actually it's quite warm today. That's alright, it might be the lights, but it's also this beautiful weather we're having, which has just gone into springtime at the moment. I'm going to be showing you a few of the things that I use to start off and acrylic painting with. So if you've never painted before, these will give you a few tips of what you can start gathering before you get started. First thing you'll need, of course, is paints. Now I use artist quality paints. I do use a few cheaper ones at various times, but I like to use a brand called Acrylic, which we use here in Australia, and it's an interactive paint. You can spray it with water and rework it again. So, because acrylic paints are renowned for drying out too quick, and that's why quite a few artists don't like to use them. I use lots and lots of colours. I don't specifically mix a colour, I usually mix on the paint, the canvas as I'm going along. But to start with, try and get the best paints you can afford, and you only really need a few to get started, and a lot of white, of course, that you can use for mixing. That's the paints covered for the moment. Next thing we need is brushes. When I started out, I bought a few brushes and I felt like I wrecked them right at the beginning, so I would just leave it and buy another one. Basically the main reason I wrecked them, I think, is because I didn't put them in water after I had paint on it, and they dry out, and once the paint is dried on a brush, it's very, very hard to get it out. I like long handled brushes. I feel like I've got a lot more control with a long handled brush. I paint very freely. I don't paint and hold the paintbrush like a pencil because it's too tight for me. I like to do free flowing work. So over the years I've collected a lot of brushes, and this is just a few. I use mostly flat brushes in various sizes, right through to the smaller ones. I use a brush like this, which is a, can't remember what it's called.
It's a fan brush.
Fan brush.
Fan brush, is that?
Leanne. And this is my favourite brush. I've got some lovely new fan brushes, but I like them when they get like this, really hard and bristly, and you can do all sorts of stipple work and things with them. So my point is, on the brushes, don't throw them out if you think they're no good anymore, because really there'll be a myriad of uses that you can use them for later on. I also like to keep my brushes in some sort of pot, and I'm always getting pots and jars from family, or even a cup that hasn't got a handle on. I'll put brushes in it. This pot in particular is a utensil pot for the kitchen, and at the time I had all yellow accessories, but I don't have yellow accessories anymore, so I commandeered it for the studio. I just always like to not see the utensil sign, so I have it turned around like that. It's just something that I do. I use a roller quite a bit, and this roller, as you can see, is being used over and over again. It's a high density roller, foam roller, but not the soft foam rollers that you get. This one, as I said, it's very high density, and you can do a lot of work with that, and I'll show you that as we go along as well. The other thing is old toothbrushes, and let's face it, we all replace these off and on over the year, and just grab your children's old toothbrushes, save them. I don't throw them out. I tend to save everything I can, thinking one day it might come in handy. And my family even give me toothbrushes now, because some of the students come and they haven't got an old toothbrush. Don't buy a new one, just use your old ones, and you can use it for splattering. So you need brushes, from wide brushes right through to your smallest brushes, and Also you need the round brushes, which I can't seem to find at the minute. The round brushes with the nice points on them for more detailed work. So I use mostly flat and a few round brushes. The other thing, which is, oh no, staying on brushes, makeup brushes. They are beautiful, they're lovely and soft, and you can get them in a lot of the stores, even a supermarket, and they're much cheaper than buying a mop brush or something like that from your art store. So it pays to you to get a set of makeup brushes and keep them specifically for blending because they're lovely and soft. Just make sure you wash them out really, really well. That's about all on brushes. A spatula, common old spatula from the kitchen. As you can see, this is well used and that's lovely for putting on big lots of colour. Foam brushes also, you see these for the children, use them, get them from craft shop and things like that, but they're good for blending and using for different techniques. Then we have palette knives. I haven't got a lot of them here at the moment because they're in my other studio, but this is my favourite one, the wide one. I like to use a lot, and I'll be doing a tutorial on palette knife painting. So they're quite good. They're good for mixing your paints as well, rather than using your paintbrush. Your paintbrush will hold the paint and also will wear out a lot quicker, so it's best to use palette knife. The other thing I use, which is useful in my toolkit, is wooden skewers. You can do tree trunks and dots and different things with wooden skewers. Another great thing is drinking straws. Now this many would last me a long time, but a drinking straw is brilliant for moving paint around, put paint on quite fluidly and blow through it, and you can get interesting effects that way. The other thing is kitchen sponges. Just your normal kitchen sponge that you use. You can cut up little corners and use that as a sponge. You can buy the nice artist sponges as well, and I also have those. To make different effects, I'm always looking for something with indentations like this. This one is from a child's toy department in a cheap shop, and that's excellent for making wavy lines like that. This one is from your local hardware, and I believe that's used for grouting. Put your grout on and they do it like that. You've seen it. Anyway, raid your husband's or your partner's toolbox or go into your hardware store and you'll see that. These also come in sets. They're quite useful too for spreading out paint, for dipping in your paint and putting a line just like that. That's all useful. And I've got this one that I actually bought from my art store. It's got various different size teeth on it, and that's also used in lots and lots of effects. What else do we use? Another interesting one that I like to use, and this is Gusset Guard. I presume most people around the world might have seen it, but you get it in a big roll from your garden centre. And my husband did our gutters one day and I thought, oh, now that would be interesting. So I've cut off a few squares and you put it on your canvas and dab away, take it off, and it leaves lovely little squares. You can line it up properly so it's windows on buildings or whatever, just another wonderful effect. Another one is an onion bag. When you get your onions, they come in these sort of cloths. Same deal, you can put that down on your canvas, spread it all out and dab through that and get a lovely effect. Another one I like to use is doilies. This one is just a, you put under cakes or something that you want to make look wonderful. But they have lovely designs on the outside, and you can use that in your paintings just to get dab through there and get different effects. You can also use real cotton doilies. They're probably work a bit better than this one, but at the moment these are just a few low budget ideas that can get you going and you might already have in your cupboard. The other thing I use is masking tape, and once again from the hardware store, this is a low tack masking tape. So you can use this if you're doing abstract work to make diamonds or shapes, or if you're doing a horizon, you put that on and it won't lift the paint off your canvas and it won't lift the surface off your canvas. So don't use ordinary masking tape because it's too strong. Try and get one of the good painter's tapes, I think they're called, that are on the market, and they're everywhere in hardware stores. Next thing I want to show you is you'll need a sketch pad. This is an A3 sketch pad. They're readily available from your newsagents, bookstores, art shops, wherever. I don't use a very expensive one or anything, I just use a sketch pad. Often I'll just use a half pad, an A4. If I'm going travelling, I'll take a small one, pocket one, and sketch anything and everything that I see. It's also good to plan your painting when you're starting out, so get some ideas off a photo or whatever you think you want to paint. If you've searched online for various subjects, get it on your sketch pad and plan it before you start. I don't do that very often. At the moment I used to. I do it on occasions if I'm not sure what I'm going to paint, but most of my work I just start painting. I have a bit of an idea what I want to do and then I just go with the flow and see what happens. So a sketch pad and pencil, ordinary lead pencils, 2B I think I used. And the other thing that's a good idea when you're starting out, if you think the canvas is a bit too expensive, you buy canvas pads from whoever. This one's I'm not marked, but there's all sorts of them. And this is also an A3, and a canvas pad it's got 10 or a dozen pieces of canvas in it. And it's just like painting on a canvas, and they tear off. They do curl up, so it pays you to perhaps put it on a board or on your table and put masking tape around it and keep it down flat. So you can practice on there and you can do quite a few. It's very good if your children are wanting to paint a canvas, but you don't want to be at the store all the time buying a canvas. So it's very good for practicing. I use it in my classes quite a bit. And the next thing we're going to do is talk about the canvas itself. Right, the next thing you need, now that you've gathered your supplies together, is a canvas. And when you're just starting out and you walk into a shop, an art store or a cheap shop, or even some hardware stores sell canvases, you think, what sort of canvas do I get? Now, I'm painting with acrylics. I mentioned that before. And the two types of canvases I use, two types of canvases that you can get is a thin one, like this, a ½ inch, I think it is, and it's stapled at the back. Now there's a reason for that. When it's hanging on your wall, I'll just turn it over, and you walk into a room, you don't want to see staples there. So I'd advise you not to get the stapled ones, because then it doesn't have to be framed. So you can paint around the sides or just put a border all the way around. And it doesn't need framing, so that makes it cheaper once again. The main one I use, or the only one I use, is a deep edge. And I've started on this one, which is rather bright, but you can see the deep edge. So you can see the difference in the thinner one and the deep edge one. It's also gallery wrapped at the corners and stapled at the back. So there's no need to frame it at all because it looks wonderful on your wall. This is the one I use all the time, but today, just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to use the thinner one, which is a lot cheaper. It's perfectly alright to start out with anyway. So you get canvas home, having purchased it, and you think, oh, now what do I do? So it's covered in plastic. You have to get the plastic off, of course. So this is the way I do it. I just put a few slits in the back, careful not to slip the canvas, of course. And it easily comes off. Take off any labels that would have the brand of your canvas that you just bought. Take that off. And then you might find something hanging on the back and think, what on earth is that? And that would be these little wedges. And a lot of people don't know what they are. A lot of people don't use them at all. I generally don't use them. But you'll also see in your canvas there's little slots in each corner. And these wedges are designed to go one in that slot and one in that slot in each corner, and it stops your canvas from warping or twisting, which can happen more with a single, what we call a single canvas, this thinner one. So generally I just take them off and keep them. If I'm doing a commission, I will put them in so that the canvas stays nice and straight and doesn't get twisted. Right, so you've bought your canvas and it will already come and it will say it's already primed. However, we like to prime it even more. You can just prime it like this, but to give yourself a more professional finish, we use a product called gesso. It's a white, I'll see if it's white, yeah, it's white with a few colours in it at the moment. As being an artist who paints regularly, I don't worry about a little bit of colour in there. So what we do is prime it again, and for ideally you would prime it twice. You don't have to do this, you can just go straight in and use it like that. But to get a better tooth and a smoother tooth, because some of the canvases you'll get, the little squares are too large, so you put your gesso over all that, let it dry, sand it, and another one. If you've still got lots of little ones that you can see, you can do it again, you can do it as many times as you want, or you can bypass that step altogether. It gives the paint a lovely surface, the canvas a surface for the paints to hold on to, and you go to all the trouble to paint your canvas, you do this wonderful masterpiece. You're either hanging it on your home, you don't want the paint all coming off, or alternatively, if you're selling, you need to really do this step to make it work. So the way we do that is quite simple. You can use your roller for this, or you can use a brush. I just wet it a little bit, dip it in, move the microphone out the way, and just put it on. Now, you might be able to see I've got some colour in here, and that's because of when I paint rather prolifically, I don't worry if the colour gets in there. You can also mix it up with the colour and put that on. So you just put it on everywhere you want to, not everywhere you want to, all over the canvas. just like that. And remember to do the edges, because you want the paint to stay nicely on the edge as well, all the way around the edges. So I won't go through and do the whole canvas because that's fairly simple to do. So you let that dry, and then you move on to your next step, which will be deciding what you're going to paint and where you're going to put your designs, and we'll discuss that in the next tutorial. Thank you very much for watching.